how honorable you are. And honor dictates, honor is from the unwritten law. Okay. It is not contractual. Honor is it is held to a greater standard, that a law that is unwritten, right? So it is your sense of doing right that you should do, not because it is written down in fine print that you should do, but you do because you know it is the right thing to do.
Well, welcome again to Live by the Sword with Grandmaster Taejoon Lee, and my name is Ferny Ceballos. I'm your host. Hwarang sir, how you doing?
Good, good.
Today, it's been a few weeks since we had our
Yeah,
last session, but
yeah.
today, sir, I think the intention was to dive into or speak around an article you wrote in Budo Journal in February of 2023, recently, and it's around the topic of no excuses. And so I'm excited to get into this because there's an important, like, personal lesson and story for me that revolves around this idea. Before we do, sir, it's been a while and it's good to see you.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I've went to the states for the holidays, and also I just came back from snowboarding.
That's right. How was it?
Yeah, it was good. We went to Solden, Austria.
Yeah.
Um, of course, every time I go, I think about you guys. I tell stories of you, and our entire TGT group. As you know, but our audience, I take our all of our TGT, which is the instructors, the assistant instructor team, and I take them annually to a snowboarding trip, and it is it's a fun team bonding or team building trip, but is also a leadership exercise, and of course the first day, I teach them. Most people don't know how to snowboard. That's why
Yeah,
I kind of do it.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I teach them the bunny slopes very slowly the first day, and the second day I take them up to the top. And it really tests their character. It really, really does. And actually, we can get into that and talk about it a little bit later if you want to. Um, yeah, it was a fun trip. It was great. It was 5 days. Uh, it took a day to get there and day to get back. It's beautiful here. The Austria. It just that's where skiing started. Is in Austria,
Oh, really?
right? Yes, yes. So it was fantastic. Food's fantastic. The hotel's right. It's beautiful. I was able to take my dog, take Kilbo, which is our official Luxembourg mascot now. And
He
so,
didn't snowboard, did he?
no, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. But he enjoys the snow. So it was good. It was a good trip.
Awesome. Wait, did you take anybody that didn't know how to snowboard?
Oh yeah. Oh cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, actually, all of them don't know how to snowboard.
Oh,
But
wow.
the head instructor, Roberto Chesca, he went with me a few seasons, so he's kind of I would say an advanced beginner, or he's intermediate level. And I have another female who went a couple times, but she's a little bit older and a little bit more squeamish, and she charged, and she was leafing, but now she's starting to do the S turns. She fell a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I had another student who tried for the first time, and it was terribly difficult for him. Um, and Yeah, it was probably a life-changing experience for him.
Well, the secret, especially for me, being a bigger guy, I mean, falling hurts more if you're bigger. I gotta say, the secret is definitely bud pads.
Yeah,
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 because if you're squeamish or if you're more hesitant, I'm definitely more
yeah,
hesitant, risk adverse. So
Yeah.
if you're like that, that means actually means you're gonna fall more if you're more like hesitant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so thank God I figured out eventually like butt pads will
Yeah.
save my
No,
butt.
they were all protected. They were all protected up. Yeah. They had pads, wrist guard, knee pads, elbow pads, everything. They were
Okay.
good.
Well, talk about no excuses. Second
Yeah.
day to the top.
Yeah.
Well, sir, you're so I read your article in Budo Journal, February.
Yeah.
Speaking of no excuses, this was, I mean, we can dive into what that means to so many people, but I just have a little anecdote or story to share
Yeah.
around like when the idea of no excuses really, really hit me. And it was something that made me realize how much on autopilot I operated in and how much on
Yeah.
autopilot other people operate in when it comes to making excuses, when it comes
Yeah.
to not fulfilling on your word.
Yeah.
And there was a time when it was just I think I was TGT at the time, so I was now assistant instructor, and I was late for class. And the impulse always when you're late for class, especially in LA,
Yeah.
is to say like, sorry, got stuck in traffic,
Yeah.
and put the blame on traffic. Um, and I'm sure it's an excuse you've heard a million times,
Yeah.
as it relates to that. But I had a special responsibility as an assistant instructor, and I remember arriving late, and you met me right at the door, and and something clicked in me right before I talked to you, and clearly you were upset and disappointed with me, and uh, at that moment, all I said was like, "Yeah, sorry, sir, won't happen. Yeah, won't let it happen again." And I just, but there was like this thing inside me wanting
Yeah.
to like tell you
Yeah.
like it's not really my fault. It's like
Yeah.
it was
Right.
traffic. It was this. It was
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it was like, so there's this voice trying to get out, trying to tell you it was this, it was that, and I saw your reaction. Your reaction was more like okay, and then you like pointed me to like get ready, get to
Yeah.
work, and it was like I realized I realized after that is like he's accustomed to receiving excuses, that the excuse after the excuse comes, there's some sort of probably discipline or talking to, but he didn't give me a talking to. He just said okay. And I also, what I noticed from your reaction was you were at first a little perplexed because you were waiting for something and you didn't receive it.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was like a moment in our relationship where like your respect for me kind of just like bumped up a little bit. And
Yeah.
just from that moment, I took away a huge lesson, and that voice inside me about that runs on autopilot. That's like a recorded record that plays every time something happens,
Yeah.
where you need an excuse. It
Yeah.
just it's something that was unplugged and was no longer automated. And as I got to see you work with other students and all the excuses they would come up with, and
Yeah.
it's like it made me real like at that point when I didn't give you the excuse, I think you probably said to yourself, or maybe you thought, okay, this guy's a little different. And in that moment is I became different.
Yeah.
And it's because I realized that it's you got to take ownership of whatever happens in your life.
Yes. That's right. That's
Like
right.
there's always something I could have done, regardless of the traffic situation. I
Yeah.
could have
Yeah.
woken up earlier. I could have left earlier. I could have checked traffic in advance and give myself buffer zone. There's
Yeah.
so many things I could have done, and that I didn't do. And
Yeah.
so so I learned the idea of ownership, and also I learned that something changed in our relationship there when I didn't give you the BS excuse of
Yeah.
it was traffic, because there was
Yeah.
traffic.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
traffic,
Of
but it was
course.
but we're in LA. Everybody can say that.
Of
And,
course. Of
and,
course.
and so that, you know, as small as that, as like little as that moment was, it was important to me because it seemed like at that point, one, I figured something out about myself. Two, I figured something out about you, that that it was like I knew that our relationship was going to be different from that point on, and I
Yeah.
just had a feeling.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can speak to that, or even if you remember
Yeah.
that moment at all, sir.
Well, I don't particularly remember that, that moment, but I can tell you exactly, you would have had a talking to if you were to give me excuses. But because you didn't and you took ownership, so that's why there was minimal uh, reprimand, and and no matter what, that. I mean, our policies, whether you're late or not, whether it's valid or not, you're late, you do knuckle push-ups. So
Right.
you do your whatever 50 or whatever knuckle push-ups, and you go on your way. The problem comes when people uh, make excuses. It's the problem. And yeah, you didn't do that. And surely my response is reciprocating that what you were thinking. And 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 so, I mean, I listed a whole thing here about excuses. Why, what are excuses, what I've learned about excuses, etc. And that's why, uh, you know, everyone. I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to. You know, repeat the same thing. So I think if we
Mhm.
go through this list, I think it'll pretty much cover all the points. You know.
Through the list of excuses.
Yeah, no, no. Well, where I say, and this is what I've learned about excuses, and I wrote a list of those things.
What, would you like me to say them out loud?
Yeah, no, let's go through them one by one. I think that's the best
Okay.
way, and then I can, elaborate on each of those. But one of the important things that about training for us now, that there should be no excuses for people not to progress and do better, is that since the 1990 we created Tesudo, right? And Tesudo is an easier, simplified version of Hwarang Do. And it has probably what would you say, 1/10
Mhm.
of the material of what's in Hwarang Do.
Yeah.
And what But before 1990, everybody was learning Hwarang Do in its full curriculum, even the children, and belt testing anywhere from 4 to 6 months. And it's 1/10 of the material, and people are having difficulty now testing for 4 or 6 months. It's And what I state in the opening or of the article is, what happened? What happened? People did people get more? Did people get dumber? did they? Did they? What happened? More? Are they doing more things? Are they're more active? Are they more distracted? And I bring this point because um, I think the key primary thing about excuses is understanding about potential and what you really desire to do. Right? Do you want to achieve, or do you want just to be accepted? You know, and if in order for you to achieve, you have to have somebody who is your mentor or teacher or whoever is guiding you, to be somebody that expects you to be disciplined. I mean, all those things come into play, and we can go through it. You have to be disciplined, you have to be organized, you have to have desire, you have to be motivated, you have to have inspiration, you have to, I mean, right? All those things has to be present in order for you to avoid making excuses. you know, um, and you'll find that people who have many excuses are not overachievers or achievers. They're usually underachievers, and most of them actually fall under victimhood.
Mhm.
you know, so yeah. So why don't we go through this? You want to read it out, read
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
and
I
then
can read it.
in
Yeah, so in the article you state, this is what I've learned about excuses. Everyone has one, and they all stink, and that there's a military version for this.
yeah, yeah, you know what
Uh,
that is, right? I mean,
I know what that is.
right. So in the military, it's it's your butthole, right? Everyone has one, and it stinks.
Yeah.
And what I mean, no
Uh,
matter how much you for every person who makes an excuse, they all think it's valid,
mhm.
right? But what it's stating is no, they all stink. All excuses are bad. There are
And
no actually good excuses.
they all think theirs is original.
Yes,
They all think that the other person doesn't understand
right. This is a
their.
huge one. This is a huge one. Okay, right. Um, and let me just give you this thing about the original part. Right, there was a kid. All right, it's my Hwarang Do student, and if it's a Hwarang Do student, that means he's already been with me about 5, 6, minimum 5 years, close to 7, 8 years. Okay, he's an intermediate Hwarang Do, sash. So the kids are probably, I don't know, 10, 11, something like that, right? And he came to class without his sash. I think it's a purple sash. And I said, what happened? And he said to me, sir, my dog ate it. you know, I will never forget that. That excuse I will never forget. Right? It's the only time, first time that is original, right? His dog ate it. Uh, of course, the following week, he found it.
Dog must
so
have pooped it out.
yeah, so his dog didn't eat it. He didn't poop it out. He found it under his bed or something like that. Of course, right? But that was an original story. I got a laugh out of that. Um, but yeah, but most people, that's what drives me crazy, right? when when I've been teaching now for over 45, 46 years, taught thousands of students. So imagine the number of excuses I've heard. Okay. And everyone who tells it, when they tell it with such fervor, with such passion, and and because it's original, because it's valid, I have to laugh. But this other one is very interesting, right? They all think the other person doesn't understand. So so normally when they tell me something, right? I'll say to them, uh, I'll make a statement like so, or um, I'll question it in is it what, and I'll repeat it, and they'll go through it again and explain the entire excuse again because they think I didn't hear it. They think I don't understand it. And I'll stand there and I'll stare at them and I'll say, so what? And then they'll say it again and again. And I do this for them to realize that what they are saying, by hopefully hearing what they are saying, that it's actually very ridiculous, right? It takes 3, 4, 5 times. It takes a lot of patience, to do that. And of course, I get very angry at the end of it when after the second, third time they repeat the story, and I have to say to them, "Do you think I don't understand? Is that why you explain it to me? Do you think I don't understand?" And then they have to stop and think about it. Okay, because if you think I don't understand, then you're demeaning my intelligence. Okay, so not only did you waste my time, but you have now disrespected me, right? Uh, so what I wanted them to do was to realize how ridiculous it is and say, I'm sorry or I apologize, do their knuckle push-ups and get it over with, right? But they want acknowledgement. They want acknowledgement that their excuse is okay. What do you want? It's interesting, right? What do you want me to say? I don't understand what did they want me to say. What do you want me to say? Oh, yeah, that was a good story. That was good delivery. You know, so they normally get themselves and
More,
bury
more,
a hole for
more,
themselves.
more knuckle push-ups are added.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
uh, the other one is they say, I don't want any sympathy, but
That's right. This one drives me crazy too, right? They'll go in and tell a story, whatever it is, and then and then maybe it's a sad story, maybe it's a whatever, uh, yeah, something that's not so good, right? So, um, um, and you kind of feel sorry for them or bad for them, right? But they'll say, I don't want sympathy, but then my entire question is, if you don't want sympathy, then why are you giving me a sob story, right? What is the story of a sad story? Why are you giving it to me if you don't want sympathy, right? Because if you didn't want sympathy, then you just apologize for being late and do the knuckle push-ups, right? You don't have to go ahead and explain everything. You want sympathy, and then they add the but, meaning yeah, you tell those story, you waste my time, go ahead telling all those things, and I extend some sympathy, then you're refusing it once again, then disrespecting uh, the other person, and then you're saying, okay, I'll do what you want me to do. I'll do the consequences. I'll deal with the consequences. So give it to me, and that is then some sense of false um, nobility or courage, and that is definitely another no. I want to actually with this give a story, and one time there was a student that was very late for testing. It was belt testing. Okay. And when they're late for testing, I mean, they normally, I refuse them. Okay. They can't test, or they'll do lots of push-ups. This one student, we have them on the weekend, right? Saturday, and we have in the morning, and he was late, probably about 30 minutes to an hour late. And he came in, rushing in, and you know, I, I yelled at him for being late. Okay. And he really wouldn't say why, right? So I said, okay, do your knuckle push-ups. And normally I don't go ahead and let you test, but I'll let it pass this time. So he did. I don't know how many, probably a couple hundred at least. And then he got in line and uh, did the thing. And what I said to him is, you know, though also what I said to him is that it doesn't matter whatever happened. There is no excuse for being late. There's nothing that's valid. Da da da. I did the whole excuse thing, explaining everything. So he did the testing, whatever it is. All right, and he didn't do so well. All right, and he got actually more in trouble for not focusing or whatever. And then he came up to me after the test, and he came up to my office, and then he thanked me. He thanked me for, uh, you know, uh, for teaching him, and not and um, for and not accepting excuse and not going easy on him. And then he explained to me why he was late, and it was because the day before his father passed away, and he uh, he almost didn't come to the test, right? But decided to go ahead and come anyway, and and yeah, and he thanked me for being strict with him, and I gave him a hug, and of course, and I extended my condolence and all that, and of course, afterwards, I felt bad. I didn't feel good about it, right? And then I had to ask myself the question, would I have done anything different if I knew that that was the case, if I knew it? And the answer is no. The answer is no. You know, um, it's unfortunate, but life goes on. It goes on, and it must go on. And I'm very proud of that student making that decision to step forward and not using that as an excuse to set back. And I tell often to students who have that kind of experience, what would the parent, think of you? What they want after they passed in heaven, looking down at you? Uh, would they want you to go ahead and suffer and mess up your life and abandon your responsibilities and what you need to do because of them? Or would they want to see you flourish, uh, and and push forward and do better, honoring honoring them? I and of course, the latter is the better choice. So, but of course, it's horribly difficult to do, horribly difficult. Everybody makes the smallest thing, smallest pain, smallest hardship as an excuse to not do things they should, to avoid responsibility. Um, so when something like that happens and they push through, that's amazing, right? That's incredible. However, once again, right, even though that is the best, I mean, what if you talk about valid? That what that's not an excuse. That's a perfect reason. It's not an excuse. Uh, but because he was late, he's still going to go ahead and pay the price. He's still going to do the knuckle push-ups. You can't avoid that. You can't avoid the consequence of your actions, no matter what it is, how reasonable, how logical, or how it's out of your control. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The consequences that affects you, you have to endure. You can't absolve those things.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, and it's also interesting how, like, from certain institutions that don't give us the opportunity to have an excuse to back out, we just understand that we're okay with that. For example, like buying tickets to a concert. Um, like there's no refunds on most concerts. Like if you buy a ticket and you don't go, you can't get a refund. The only chance you have of getting rid of that ticket and getting your money back is if you scalp it, if you like resell it. But let's say you can't do that. Like it's clear, no refunds, and everyone buys a ticket, understands it, and it's like, oh man, I guess I lost my money. But then for something else, it's like we demand and we complain and we like are entitled and it's just like for I guess if the institution is big enough, it's like, oh, we can't fight the power. But then,
Yeah,
for and I've thought about that because like for travel, for airlines, like people buy tickets that are non-refundable. Like
yeah,
they know that. They've
yeah,
taken on that responsibility that they can't make an excuse if they can't make the flight or whatever. But then in other situations, um, that maybe are more important than a concert, they feel compelled to want to make an excuse or get the sympathy or
yeah,
have their situation be validated.
yeah. I mean, you could try everything you can. I mean, by all means. I mean, if you're dealing with those kind of situations, you could try to go ahead and tell every kind of story to try to, try to get your refund or money back and do all that. You know, but my point, but the thing is to think that you can do that and you don't get it, and then to be upset. and whatever. That's wrong. That's clearly wrong. You can try it knowing that you probably won't get it, but you can you can try to give a best story and be a drama queen and do your best to see if it'll work. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, fine. But you can't do it expecting that because of something that you did, that you expect the other person to go ahead and accommodate you. That's not right thinking, and those are the things that we're trying to teach. But more importantly for me, right, it is the idea of no excuse is not so much in dealing with those kind of situations, but the excuse is more in the sense of maintaining your promise, maintaining your word, right? um and doing everything you can to fulfill that, so and to live so it has to do with honor, right?
Mhm.
you know how honorable you are, and honor dictates it. Honor abides. Honor is from the unwritten law. Okay, it is not contractual. Honor is it is held to a greater standard, that a law that is unwritten, right? So it is your sense of doing right that you should do, not because it is written down in fine print that you should do, but you do because you know it is the right thing to do. Making no excuses is along those lines, so that you do not go ahead and have easy way to forfeit your promise, to forfeit your responsibility. Okay, um, so that's one thing. The other thing about no excuse is making excuses for yourself. One of the biggest things is not only trying to tell stories to other people, right? To have them accept your excuse for failing or not meeting up to the standard or whatever it is, being late or whatever. But it is the excuses we make to ourselves that has to stop. That is actually more important. But think about it, we make excuses all the time to ourselves. We cheat ourselves all the time. You know, you made a plan, right? That you're going to go on a diet and you cheat, right? You make a plan to get up, an hour earlier, every day, or you make a plan to start working out, or whatever it is, right? But you cheat yourself. You make excuse to yourself, whatever, today, okay, I'm tired, I'm not waking up, or right? It That's the thing. That's the voice. That's the thing that's got to stop. And when you do that with yourself, that also then extends to other people,
Mhm.
you know? Um, and so, I mean, like right now, I'm getting up now 2 hours early. I'm getting up at 6 in the morning now because I have to learn this Luxembourgish language because I'm trying to gain citizenship. I'm trying to get citizenship for a language that's only spoken by 500,000 people, right? It's a dying language, but it's a requirement that I pass a language test, a conversational language test, and understanding test. At this age, try to go ahead and learn a whole new language, and it's not easy. Um, so anyway, I finally decided, I got to do it. I got to put in the time, or there's no way I can bicker, complain, and bitch about it. At the end of the
No,
day,
no excuse is gonna
yeah, it's
lead to a better outcome.
there's no way out of it. There's no way out of it. Okay, and believe me, I try to find a way out of it. There's no way. Um, so I'm getting up at 6. I do it in the morning, and I get going. But in doing that, I started to work out. So now, I get up in the morning at 6. I walk my dog, I do the language, and at 8 o'clock I go hit the gym, and I'm done by 10 o'clock. That's it's great. I'm feel good again. I feel my muscles are sore again, which is normal. Soreness was something I lived with for 30 years, 30, 40 years. um, and that's great. So, you know, but my point is that many times, right? At 6 in the morning, I'm trying to get like, you know, huh? Do I, it's not easy. It's hard. You got to get yourself up to do that. So personal excuse, holding yourself to your promises and keeping your promise to other people and keeping your word. This is fundamental. It's fundamental and foundation of being a strong man. That is what it means to be a man, but that is also what is to be a good human being, right? Uh, and all people should do it, of course, whether you're man or woman. Okay, but that is what is foundational uh, as uh, as a man to and then as a warrior, right? And of course, I'm not saying this in I'm not trying to be sexist here, but traditionally and foundationally that's the case, right? But any kind of betrayal to yourself or making excuses and not fulfilling your promises and commitments, whether you're man, woman, or child, is wrong. It's wrong. All right. And we have to hold people accountable to make sure they don't do that. I don't know too many people, or martial arts, even and that's what martial arts should be doing. That's teaching and doing the way we do. I don't know of any other schools actually that exercise doing knuckle push-ups for being late. I don't know of any. None. You know.
Yeah, most schools or martial arts schools that operate like businesses are trying to like probably cater and make the customer happy, and I think that's one of the clear distinctions that you make in your school, sir, is and it's something that I've actually adopted in my own business with my own clients.
Yeah.
Once they get into a mentorship program with me, and I stole this from you, sir, is
Yeah.
you once said, "You are not my customers.
Yeah.
You are my students."
Yeah.
And that is a fundamentally different relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Eh,
customer is king. So
mhm.
that's when I state that the point is that when customer is king, right? But being student, you're not king. Student's not king. The teacher's king. That's the difference. When you're customer, you're the king. When you're my student, the teacher's king. Right? And the student does not dictate the curriculum. The student not dictate what's done daily and what they don't. Customer dictates service and what they want, and then you have to cater to them. So, yeah, absolutely, the customer, and that's the one of the fundamental problems. Many of the students have is that when they have this, I'm paying for this and I want to get my money's worth and act like their customer, and this is a big no-no. But you're right, many of the schools do that, and that's a big mistake.
Yeah, because then how do you teach? Like if your job is to instill lessons, principles, the idea of honor, maintaining your word, it's like, well,
Exactly.
that becomes impossible as soon as they're no longer your student and more your customer.
Yeah. Well, because truth hurts, and you got to tell them the truth. And most of the lessons that are taught of any value are things that they're not going to like hearing. They won't like it, right? So if the goal is to please them, you will never ever work. You will never. No. Do you have you? I mean, try teaching your customer something. Try teaching your customer that what they're doing is wrong. Imagine that. Imagine somebody comes and asks for service and paid you money, and you're trying to tell them something that they're doing is wrong. You think they're going to listen to you?
Mhm.
And will you do that? No, because you know they're not going to listen to you. They're going to get upset at you, they curse at you, and they'll never come back to you again. And you're going to lose business. But if you're a teacher and you want to teach them, what are you teaching? Mostly you're teaching them, if you're a good teacher, you need to teach them the things that they are doing wrong.
Right.
and and nobody wants to be told that they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, no, yeah,
Well, I mean, I've had tough conversations, and with my clients, and again, I run an education program for entrepreneurs, and when I do kind of warn them, like when I'm going to tell them something that's going to be very direct, and then normally someone would take offense. I'm like, "So I'm about to tell you something, but I'm speaking to you as a coach.
yeah,
Like I warn them, like, I know you don't
yeah,
do that because you don't have to, but
yeah,
I still have to kind
yeah,
of like
absolutely,
balance
absolutely.
that in
Yeah,
terms
yeah,
of the normal business world.
yes,
But
yes,
it is, yeah, otherwise it would be impossible for me to kind of instill or convey and transfer the lesson and the principle that I'm trying to get across to them if they view themselves as customers, and that I'm here to serve their every whim and desire
yeah,
that they have.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So sir, do want to finish the list?
Yeah, let's go through it. I mean, I
All right.
at least want to get through this. There's a few more here.
Well, there's one that's really good, and that it's a waste of time to listen to other people's excuses,
Yes,
because
absolutely,
there's nothing of value, and I think
absolutely.
that uh probably extends beyond just the time they're giving you the excuse, because then if you accept their excuse, then very likely they're going to be wasting more of your time in the future,
Yeah,
because they're going to
yeah,
fall short in
yeah,
some way.
yeah. Do you know what I tell them when they give me the excuse? I said, that's not something you should tell me. That's something you should tell yourself. Right? Don't tell me, whatever you did, you're late, you did not fulfill whatever you promised, you didn't do what you were supposed to, you forgot, you lost something, whatever. Okay. I don't need to know. I don't need to know why. You forgot a technique. You were late. You didn't bring your uniform. Whatever. I don't need to know why. All I know is that you don't have it. So you're going to get disciplined. You need to know why you didn't bring it. You need to know why you're late so that you can prevent it from happening again. So you need to know. I don't need to know. I don't need to know. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to know, because no matter what you say, it doesn't matter, because you're late. No matter what you say, your uniform or your belt or your armor is not going to materialize. It's not here. So it doesn't matter. You're going to do the knuckle push-ups. You're going to pay the consequences. There's no way out of it. And will I think anything better or less of you for having a good excuse or bad excuse? No. No. You're wasting my time with good or bad. All excuses are bad. They all stink, right? And so no, no, absolutely not. Right? So why do they tell it? They need to tell it. They need to tell it because they don't want you to think bad of them,
Right.
right? That, oh, I didn't do it on purpose. You know, this is what I tell people all the time when they do something wrong or bad, made a mistake, all right? And it sometimes it's are things that are hurtful to the other person, right? I say to them, listen, if you did those things knowingly, intentionally, you'd be an evil person. If you were late purposely, then you're a really bad person. If you forgot your uniform or your armor purposely, then you're a bad person. You are self-sabotaging and you deserve the consequence, or actually more severe consequence,
Hmm.
right? So, of course, it's all unintentional, right? So, no matter how good the story is, it
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
I didn't mean to.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what I didn't mean to. Yeah, if you meant it, you'd be a really bad person.
Well, there was there when I took I've told you about this, sir. When I took the Landmark Forum, there's a whole discussion around the idea of keeping your word and honoring your word. And the instructor, the facilitator, gave an example. It's like, so if you told, let's say, your brother or your cousin or whoever, that you were going to be at their house by this time, and that while you were driving to their house, you crossed a bridge and the bridge collapsed, and you're okay, like bridge collapse, car accident, they have to dig you out, but you're fine. Did you break your word? And it was like this, people weren't sure where to go.
Yeah.
And ultimately the answer is yes, you did break your word.
Yes, that's right.
You did break your word. And then there
Yes.
was this woman that, like, finally, when the entire room got it, but there was this
Yeah.
one woman that was just like
Yeah.
insistent. No, the bridge collapsed. There was an
Yeah.
accident. Like,
Right.
did
Right.
not break the word. He
Yeah.
didn't mean to. And I was like,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
did break the word.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
did he show up
Yeah.
when he said he was going to show up?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was I'm so glad that I mean, I'm very thankful for that woman that fought with this guy for like
Yeah.
hours. We're
Yeah.
sitting there hours trying, like,
Yeah.
getting this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
ultimately what he came back with was, by breaking your word, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean there's no way back from breaking your word. You just
Yeah.
broke your word.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it was
What?
just I know you want go ahead, sir,
Yeah.
because
Well, what she's hitting on is intention.
mm-hmm,
Is intention,
mm-hmm,
right? He didn't intend on breaking his word. He intended to keep his word. But by the act of God, of something that happened that was out of his control, right? It He wasn't able to fulfill it. So does that mean he broke his promise? So in her mind, she's dealing with intention here,
mm-hmm,
not the result, not the act itself, not what took place, right? So what we suffer is that, right? We're going to suffer that. You made a promise to be there. I don't know. Maybe it was something very important, okay? And that happened, and you don't show up. Then it's a possibility. The consequence is a possibility that that person who you made the promise to are going to think of you badly, right? We are going to suffer that, and you're going to try to explain best you can whatever, but that is on the other person. For us to expect them not to think badly of you is the wrong expectation, right? We have to suffer whatever the consequence because we didn't fulfill the task. Yeah? Intentions actually don't matter, right? What's the other saying? Huh? Highway to hell is paved with good intentions.
mm-hmm.
Road to hell is paved with good intentions. See, intentions at the end of the day has really nothing to do with it. It has to do with your action. You know, you're going to think of other things. Right? Because there's other things. For instance, you're talking about manslaughter and murder, right? There is, did you intend on killing or did you accidentally kill, right? Well, both get punished. And only reason those things are delineated is the level of punishment. Do
Mm-hmm.
you understand? It's not, they don't go free because one intention was better than the other or the one had the intention, the other didn't, was accidental, right? That is only to determine the level of punishment, the consequence, right? But at the end of the day, both act is it is what the action, what the result is that matters. I tell people, this is what people say all the time, right? Along with making excuses, is about saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." There are people who say apologize all the time. I'm sorry is like right at the tip of their word. Anything they do, I'm sorry, 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 right? And especially in martial art, this is a problem, right? You can't have sorries. You can't accidentally boom hit somebody and go, "Oh, I'm sorry." So when somebody does that, right? I tell people, do you do the same? You have a gun in your hand, you pull the trigger, you kill the person. After you kill them, you say, "I'm sorry." Huh? What's it worth? The point being, that's why you have to be mentally focused, mentally clear, be in total control of yourself, so that you don't make those offenses, those mistakes, because it's the actions that matter. That is definitely clear in martial arts training, because every action that's a mistake could result in injury to your other person, and to yourself. The consequences are immediate and direct. Okay, so with that all together, why this idea of no excuse for martial arts especially is profound, but it should be for all people, right? That woman don't want to accept it. She doesn't want to accept, right? I'm not a bad person. I've had good intention. She's thinking of herself because she probably done it 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and to admit that would to say that she broke her promises, that she hurt the other person, that she offended, that she, you know, other people might not say to her, right, that she's a bad person, but more likely, if you made a promise and you don't keep it, they're not going to expect you to keep your next promise. Whatever the case, right? And if that's the case, then you have to, once again, right? You have to regain their trust. You have to work at it to get it back, even though it wasn't your fault.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though it was your fault, you're going to suffer the consequences. You accidentally killed somebody, you're still going to pay. You're still going to get punished.
I think there's an experiment that people can do, and I learned it and I started doing it after that story that I told you about in the beginning of our call, sir.
Yeah.
And so when it came up that I broke my word or was late or something, I started consciously, because we're accustomed to giving each other excuses. It's kind of like commonplace. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm
Yeah.
late, traffic, and everybody's goes, no problem, whatever. And so and just like that's how people like relate to each other. It's through excuses. And so when I broke my word, was late or whatever, I started just saying, yeah, apologize for being late, and then I just shut up. I didn't say anything after that.
Exactly.
And people are thrown off, like they're like, they sit there waiting for what comes next, and it doesn't come next.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't know how to respond to you.
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you just take ownership of it,
Yeah.
when you acknowledge it, but then you don't give an excuse, it really throws people off,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it almost
Yeah.
makes for an awkward situation.
Right. Right. I mean, if you're going to go for a deal or do whatever, or you could say, yeah, exactly that. I'm sorry, I'm late. If that offends you, that upsets you, or that breaks our deal, I fully accept whatever happens. But I'm sorry. You know, it, I mean, that's really all that you need, and that's what really people really want, is that, right? They don't want to sit there and hear all your story. They just want, they want an apology. They,
Acknowledgement, it's that you screwed up and that you're aware of it.
exactly, exactly. And you made it difficult for the other person. You made them wait.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So next one.
Uh, one shouldn't hang out with people full of excuses because it's
Be-
contagious.
yes, yes,
It's just what I was talking about right now.
exactly, exactly. I mean, I really, really, and if you know people who make a lot of excuses, I mean, hopefully that's not you, first of all, but then observe people who make a lot of excuses, right? And see their life. And the whole goal in life is really to not make excuses, as minimal excuses as possible, and not to say you're sorry. Okay. I, I mean, it doesn't mean never say sorry, even though you messed up or you did well. No, no, no. I'm saying live your life to avoid the situations where you're required or you need to make excuses or apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Avoid offending people. Keep your promises. That's the goal. Avoid offending people. Keep your promises.
Yep. Like there's a, and also take ownership when you do, break your word.
Absolutely.
That's the other thing.
When you do, yeah, when you do, because it will happen. You
Mm-hmm.
will, because you're not perfect. You will break your word. You will offend people. Okay. Even though you try your darnest, it's to minimize that. That's what you want to minimize. But when you do, because you're human and you will make those mistakes, you have to own up. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay. Next.
You see, there's no such thing as a valid excuse because in the end, the validation is not given by the listener, but must be validated by the self, which of course no self in their right mind would validate, hence the need for the listener.
I don't think we need to go through that. I mean, right?
I think you covered that. It's like you when
Yeah,
when you're talking
yeah,
about, I don't need to listen to the excuse.
yeah,
This is for you. You need to know why.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right.
All right. Uh, and we covered this as well. Making an excuse to avoid consequences and trying to make yourself out to look good is not the same as explanation. Explanations are given to inform and to improve the hopes of changing one situation and not to repeat the same offense.
That's right. That's right. There's a fine line between explanation and an excuse, right? And normally, what happens is that, for instance, if you were late, right, uh, in that situation, you told the story in the beginning when we talked, right, of our podcast. If I were to ask you, why were you late? See, now that's an explanation, right? So now you have to give the other person, right, the 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 decision or the power to 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 voluntarily waste his time listening to you or not. You have to give that power to the person. So when they say, why are you late? Then of course you have to explain.
Yeah. One of the things that I do with my, I guess my students and clients is I don't ask them why, I ask them what happened.
Right.
So, because why tends to take the, well, when I say what happened, tends to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
it more
yeah.
objective
Yeah, yeah.
as
Yeah,
opposed
yeah.
to more like
Yeah.
defensive.
But
Uh,
see, I know what you're saying. I know
yeah,
what you're saying. See, but see, I'm different
I
because I don't
know.
want to know what. I want to know why. See, I know what you're saying,
Mhm.
right? Right. But as a student, for me, it's important. So what happens is, so this is what happens. Very interesting. You hit on this because see, then if I say what, they'll tell me, oh yeah, I did this and we're late, because of traffic, whatever it is, right? When I ask the question, why were you late? The answer is not traffic. The answer is why are you late? Right? Why you're late is because you didn't think of traffic. Do you understand?
Mhm.
You didn't think of traffic. And normally, the reason why I would ask somebody why is because I know there's a story behind it. I know there's a reason, right? He's a repeat offender. You understand? He must have made it happen more than once or twice, right? And it does this frequently. So then I know why. Whenever also many times I ask the question why, I know why. I know the answer, right? So when they're late, for instance, if they're late, their hair is all frizzed out, they're running in, their uniform's all wrinkled, and it hasn't been washed, whatever it is, right? I know this person's lazy, right? He didn't wash his uniform. He got up late, right? He didn't have time to fix his hair or whatever it is. Okay. So I know, right? Then he tells the story. Then he says, oh, traffic. He's screwed. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, sir.
And when I asked him that, when I asked the question, I do it for a reason. I want them to be introspective. I know what you're saying is because when you say why, yeah, it makes them that way, and they kind of guard. And then if you want to have established communication and dialogue, you'll stop them when you say why. But if you want them to open up and start speaking to you, it is better to give a more objective question they can objectify, which is what, and not also attached emotionally. But me, I want to know why, with exactly the opposite reason, because I
Well,
want them the introspective, think about what they did, what they thought, what they felt, etc.
well, yeah. I mean, the value in what you're doing is one as a warrior. If you're taking the warrior mentality, you want there to be emotion. You want the seriousness of that to be amplified because you're trying to transfer the lesson to what they're doing. They're training. This is you're learning techniques that can hurt, kill, hurt your, and if you do them wrong, you hurt yourself or kill yourself.
Yeah,
And it's and you want them to be uh accustomed to being in a heightened state of stress
yeah,
and still be able to like think
function,
themselves through and remain
absolutely,
calm. And so the only way to train somebody in that is to in every opportunity to create an elevated level of stress
yeah,
or until eventually that person learns to like be able to calm themselves on their
yeah,
own,
yeah,
even when they're being yelled at or they're in a fight or whatever.
yeah,
Because no one's gonna stop and like, all right, freeze. All right, what do you see happening here? No one's no one's
yeah,
gonna break it down for them.
exactly, exactly,
And so and that's the that martial arts training, like, it carries a such higher level of, I guess, seriousness and consequence to it, that you do want people to kinda, like, learn to kinda shift themselves out of that, you could say that the emotional Y state
yeah,
and into more of, like, slowing things down, what's happening, etcetera.
yeah,
What's he really asking me?
yeah,
But and in what I was saying is really it's a line of questioning that is meant to help them kind of break that down.
yeah, yeah,
But I mean, it's a different situation for my clients. I need to
yeah,
help break,
absolutely,
you
absolutely,
know,
yeah,
I need to help them break it down so that they
absolutely,
arrive at basically the same conclusion you were talking about. It's
yeah,
like, yeah, well, so what caused you to be late? Traffic. No, but what came before traffic?
yeah,
It's like, well, like, what time did you leave your home?
right,
And it's
right,
almost
right,
like asking the
right, right,
questions to
right,
then
right,
to have them realize, yeah, I didn't prepare. I didn't give myself
yeah,
enough time. There
yeah,
we go.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, you're right. You're using what to fish for the truth, where I want the person to introspectively think about it and give me
And
the right
to
answer.
to do the hard work and do it in a high pressure situation because that's what they have to
Exactly,
do when they're fighting.
exactly.
Yes, sir.
You got it. Okay,
Uh,
next one.
Making an excuse to avoid consequences is trying to make yourself.
Oh, we did that one.
Oh, we did that one. Okay.
Yeah. Next one.
Giving an excuse is not an apology. An apology starts with "I'm sorry." An excuse starts with but, or because.
Right? I mean, that's very simple, right? But yeah, you should just apologize. It's so hard for people to do that.
And say nothing else.
Exactly. Well,
It's,
that's why there's no but or because.
yeah,
If you say, yeah, exactly, I'm sorry, but
I'm sorry.
that's the worst, right? That's the worst. That's the worst. And in any relationship advice, if there's anyone, please never use that to your spouse, to your mate. Apologize, apologize. Don't finish with but.
It'll also diffuse any tension as much as possible. uh,
Yeah,
an excuse does not waive one's responsibilities. Because you missed class does not waive your responsibility to know what was taught in class.
that's right. That's right.
So now the missing class, now somebody has to be, if they do miss part of class, all of class, now they got to do the work to figure out what was taught in class. They got
Yeah,
to
how
reach
many
out
people do
to,
that? How many people do that? How many people do that? Not many.
no.
Okay. But if you're going to be an achiever, if you're going to do great things, that is the proper mind. Because the desire is not to be on time. The desire is not to please the teacher. The desire is not to get yelled at or not to get in trouble. Those are not the reasons why you're doing what you're doing. The single most important thing you're doing what you're doing is because you want to learn. You want to grow. You want to be stronger. You want it. You have the desire to do that. And that is what should drive you. And if that's the case, you want to learn everything you can. And when you miss the class and you didn't get it, you want to make sure that you get all the information what was taught in that class. Because you missed out. Right? That should be your first nature, first desire. But what do? You go, I'll just come next week. I'll get in the next class or whatever. But the thing that was taught in that class is not going to be taught again in the next class. Right? So what you should be doing is asking the other students, what was it? What happened? Go over the techniques. Do refresh. Who does that? Not many people. I give you a case and example. And just this last week, one of my students got in big trouble, and I lost it. I lost it because I've been working with her for since I've been here, 5-6 years now. And she's a high level now. She's an instructor level, right? And she did a technique wrong, and I just asked a simple question. I said, why'd you, once again, it's not so simple, right? Why'd you do that? And did you know that you're doing it wrong? And she said, yes. She knew. She knew she wasn't supposed to do, but she did. Okay. And I kept on pushing the question. Ultimately, it all fell apart, and she didn't know what she was doing. And she just automatically, because she's so afraid of getting in trouble or doing wrong, that she just answered that she knew. And what I needed for her, the exercise was for her, is to recognize that she doesn't know, because you cannot fix yourself or you cannot learn new when you lie and say you know something you don't know. And especially in martial arts training, if you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be doing it, because it could injure and harm. But that notion, all that stuff, she knows it, but she can't do it. So when the point that comes, when I ask the question, do you know? She answers to the affirmative, when she should have said, sir, I don't know. I wasn't sure. Can you please show me again? That's all she needed to do. But she could not do that. And now she said that she knew she was stuck with it. And then, because it's founded on a lie, everything broke down. And she broke down. And fundamentally, right? That's my point, right? It can't be to avoid mistakes. It can't be to not offend somebody. It can't be to have people like you. To keep promises, to uphold your responsibility, you can't be for those other external reasons. The single most important reason that you should really be inspired or motivated to do anything that is good, positive, is because you have the desire to be the best person possible. You sincerely have the desire. You want to be the best person that you could possibly be. That has to be the goal. When you're going to learn something, training something, you have to have the desire that I really want to learn this. See, my problem with this language thing is because I really don't want to learn it. I know the truth. That's the problem I'm having. Okay? Because I don't want to learn it. But I want the citizenship. And that's the trouble. That's the conflict. So it's a hard journey.
I think time does not repeat. So if you missed something, you must make it up in a timely manner. And you go on in the article.
Yeah,
in the end, the people with the most excuses only hurt themselves and have lost the most valuable commodity in the universe, time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the and then I just want to finish by saying this last part here, right? I mean, there's a lot of things I say here, but yes, this might seem a little harsh, but why think of it any other way? If at the end of reading the bullet points, if you were able to refute or think that there's something to refute because surely there are good excuses, then you're not in the right frame of mind. Of course, there are always exceptions, but why waste time thinking about them, especially when it's not going to help you in a positive light? So, the time you spent to think of excuses, the time you spent to go ahead and think of the stories to tell, the time you spent to tell the excuses, these are all waste of time. The simple important fact is that, right? You were supposed to do something, you didn't do it. You forgot something, you made a mistake. It's a simple thing of owning up to the mistake and dealing with and accepting the consequences. Don't waste your time, don't waste the other person's time. And you have to take the opportunity to reflect and think about why that happened and prevent it from happening again. Right? Uh, so whenever you do those things, it's self knowledge that's important, and be able to self rectify, self knowledge to self rectify. That's what you need, right? Excuses is telling the other person, and other person doesn't need to know. You need to know why and prevent the what.
Yes, sir. And I think one of the the way I address breaking my word evolved after our initial that story that I told in the beginning was, rather than give an excuse, if you're going to give them anything, give them what is it you failed to do. Like I didn't, I failed to leave early enough from the house to be on time. I'm sorry. And
That
that lands differently.
that would be awesome. That would be awesome. I don't know a person like that.
Mhm.
I have not come across a person like that.
Well, well, I have,
I
but
mean,
they work with me.
you, yeah.
I
Well,
have it.
well,
What? See, the guy that does that and that works with me is part of our team. He's former military,
mm, yeah,
and he's been a war, and so he
right.
understands the consequences of
Yeah,
failing to meet your word in that
exactly,
scenario.
exactly. See, that's the point, right, guys? That's the point, right? To military soldiers like that, you you don't do what you're supposed to. It could mean the life of many people because of one thing you did not do, that you weren't there in the right time in the right place, one mistake or something you forgot. You see, this is what it means to live right as a warrior, having the warrior's mind. So I talked about this one thing. I have a clip, um, Instagram, video out, right, short video, and I talk about when you come to class every day, when you put on the uniform, when you put on the robe, you got to leave your world behind, and and transform yourself into a warrior, you know. And what are you doing? You're practicing, you're training to prepare for battle. Right? It's blown up, right? It has like million views and all kinds of likes, and people are using the sound bite as the sound track for their videos. I was like, okay, great. But some people are saying, oh, it's not battle. It's not about battle. It's not no war, peace. They don't understand. That's not what we're talking about. I'm not saying go to battle, right? It's not about going to battle.
It's
It's
not a
not.
pro. It's not a pro war message.
Yeah, yeah, that's what they're thinking, right? War, that's war. No, it has nothing to do with that. It is exactly what you just said, right? With that one student of yours, right? It's understanding. It's taking all the things you're doing in a life death situation, right? All the choices you're making as a life, as if your life and the life of others were dependent on it. See, that is the warrior's mind. I make a mistake, people will die. I will die. Right? That's the martial art. Because that's why we can't have excuses. Why they can't make mistakes. Right? Because somebody will get hurt. In a military situation, somebody will die. So it's having that sharpness of mind, not not going to battle, going to war, not fighting. No, every day the idea, right? You're fighting with yourself. You're fighting with apathy, fighting with your lack of discipline, fighting with stress, fighting with disappointments, uh, discouraging things, fight with the troubles of life and living and etc. That's the battle. Battlefield is life. Life.
And I think also people who think that, well, I mean, life is not that serious, and we're not in battle, but we would be far more productive, probably accomplish more, achieve more if we still operated in that way. If we held ourselves to that higher standard, like we'd have a better life, even though we know, yeah, by being late from traffic, no one's going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
die.
Well, see,
But it helps us achieve more, and
yeah,
therefore doesn't waste our time
yeah,
here on
yeah,
earth.
yeah. Well, that's the entire point, right? Is that, and that's the series of this. How to achieve, right? How to achieve is the series. Okay, and making no excuses is a foundation to achieve. So this is the question. This is the question. It's only for people who want to achieve. We're not talking about for people who don't want to achieve. Right? So if you don't want to do great things, you don't want to achieve, right? You don't want to be successful, and you just want to subsist, and you accept mediocrity as a way of living, right? So I was just talking to that student, right? She's founded living the middle path. I said, you're living the middle path, the middle way. You're very Zen. You're very Buddhist. You don't even know it. But you avoid conflict. You avoid the ups and downs. Okay? You avoid anything that's going to get you down. You avoid anything that's going to challenge you and potentially hurt you. Right? So you don't try too hard. You don't try too low. You don't shoot low. You don't shoot high. You just stay in the middle. Don't offend anybody. Don't upset anybody. Don't say anything too. Don't do anything. Just stay in the middle. Staying in the middle is zero. Zero. You multiply anything by zero is zero. You add zero to anything, nothing changes. Zero is zero. If that is your choice to live life, this is not for you. What I'm saying in all our discussion is not for you. But if you want to achieve, you want to maximize, because that's what we say. We're maximizing ourselves, maximizing human potential, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. If that is the goal, and you desire to be the best that you can be, then you got to follow these things.
Well, excellent, sir. I think we're about out of time, but that was a great discussion and great close. So I have nothing more to add.
Thank you, Ferny. Yeah, it was a good discussion. I enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite subjects, in the way of, because I'm always dealing with it, not by choice, but it is something that really I work with my students to help them overcome, and it really helps them when they can see the idea of what they're saying, what the excuse is, what it really means. It really helps them to uh, to transform and become much better in all the things that they do. And I'm glad it helped you.
Excellent. Absolutely, sir.
Okay.
All right. Thank
Very
you,
good.
sir.
See you next week. Oh, hold on.
Yes, sir.